Welcome to Silva TV. Hi, I'm Silva Quesada, and I'm so happy that you're here because today we have a really special guest. Now, as you know, Silva TV is where you can come to get more information on how to work with your tools and techniques, have great success with the Silva method, and be able to evolve your life in the direction of your choosing and literally begin to create and live the life of your design. So I'm really happy you're here because this is truly a must-watch for everyone who really wants to evolve and get better and better through time. Today, our special guest is all the way from France. In fact, she is a Silva director of France and has been so for 25 years. So Pascol has a lot to share with us, and her topic today is about consciousness. And I think it's really a great topic to discuss because so many people, I'm still surprised to say, live their lives so unconsciously, not really creating their life as they go, really disconnected with what is happening, where in fact we can step in, participate in how we create our lives and really take it in the direction of our choosing. But to do so, we must live consciously. And so Lee's topic today is about consciousness. Welcome, Lee. How are you today?
Welcome, Laura. I'm very well today, and I'm delighted to be here with you and delighted to be welcomed into everybody's living rooms or computer rooms or wherever they're watching this. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm so happy that you could make it. Lee, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to, get together with the Silva method?
Certainly. First of all, probably your listeners are saying, where's the French accent? That's because basically I'm of Australian origin, and I do teach in France and I do teach in French, but this is probably a little twinge of an Aussie accent that you can hear there. And I came over to Europe in 1984. I met my current husband in 1985, and he was the one that was responsible for me doing the Silva method and eventually getting me into doing the trainings and where we are now. So both of us together share the load, although I'm the one that's actually doing the upfront talking to the public.
Well, yes, but Michael is such a valuable player in you two being Silva instructors or directors.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's like I'm the left brain, he's the right brain.
Exactly.
We need to work together.
He is so good at marketing and promoting the Silva method and bringing people into classes and sharing the word. So that's really a valuable role. So tell us, Lee, what are some of the basic things that you've learned most that have impacted your life, after taking the Silva method?
Well, I think what happened when I first took the Silva method was for the very first time, I actually found something that was concrete and practical that you could use on a day-to-day basis. Because up until then, I've been reading all these books on philosophy and spirituality. And it was all very well, but it just it was at another level. It just never impacted my daily life. And then suddenly here was this course which said, every day, do this, do that, count backwards, visualize this. And I still find this is one of the most amazing things about the Silva method today, that it is a purely practical thing that anybody can put into practice and start in everyday life seeing changes. And to me, it was like the lightning conductor, if you like, that made all this spiritual stuff suddenly come into contact with daily physical reality.
Yeah, that's so well put. In your topic about consciousness, what would you say are the three top things that people really need to grasp about consciousness? Because consciousness is a little bit intangible for people. Sometimes they think like, well, I'm conscious that I'm alive, I'm conscious that I'm eating or working, but that's not exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about being really conscious of your experience, both internally and externally. And kind of like how the internal experience really does impact and influence the external reality as well. So what are three main things that you can say are really valuable about consciousness and to help us have a more concrete understanding about consciousness?
Well, I would say that the first thing is that the Silva method is a consciousness expanding class. And I don't think people sometimes quite realize how much when they're first signing up to it. And that once you do start practicing these techniques, you really do realize we are so much more than what we seem to be. So that would be the first thing, that there are far more levels and depths to us than at first we realize, which we start to discover by practicing the techniques. And of course, it's up to every individual how far they go. But it's really, I feel that as a Silva instructor, I'm an explorer of consciousness. And of course, you can go on exploring that because it's unending. So it really is great to be an explorer. So what would I say would be the second thing? I would say the second thing I would like to say to people is that even though there may be very deep levels of yourself that we normally call totally unconscious, that you may not access consciously when you're at alpha, we have techniques in Silva to be able to access the information that we actually need. And this is where I feel that the laboratory and the counselors come in, because when we use the laboratory and the counselors, we can access amazing inner wisdom, experience that we think we've totally forgotten, things that we may have picked up long time ago, or even, and this will bring me to our third point, that sort of connective consciousness that we're all in. Now, this is probably a little bit more spiritual, if you like, but the whole idea that when we are at level, we are interconnected, that we are all part of the same consciousness, a sort of an endless field of consciousness, if you like, and that whenever we are in alpha, doing casework, doing laboratory and counselors, we are able to actually do that connection with other people's consciousness in this unifying field. And quantum physics said that as well, yeah.
Yeah, still today I find it very interesting how many people don't really buy into that whole concept, when in fact science itself will tell us that we originated from one big bang. And that one big bang was of a mass that was so dense that exploded into everything that we see exists in the entire universe, including every single human being, creature, everything that is animate or inanimate. And so at some level or depth, we are all connected. And to not understand that, even from a scientific point of view, is kind of really dumbfounds me sometimes, because, and we are truly coming from one same source that tends to respond to our thoughts, images, intentions, and doesn't discriminate. And that's just one force, one field, one source. Some people call it God, so I think it's fine. Some people call it the universe. Some people call it the field. But we all come from that, and we are truly all connected. I think that's really quite interesting. Lee, can you give us some ideas as to how a person can develop more and more consciousness on a day-by-day basis?
Well, first of all, be fully aware that so-called beta consciousness is just a tiny little tip of the iceberg, because I think this is the big mistake, or the big myth, if you like, of modern civilization, that we think that our external conscious awareness is it. That all this wonderful scientific knowledge and logical stuff, which we need, but in fact that is just such a tiny little part of all the other areas of consciousness that we can access. So I would say the first thing is to be aware that what we are taking in with our physical senses is only part of the story. And then I would say it's the usual story. Go to level regularly, because every time we go to level and we dip into those inner conscious levels, we do become more aware. We can't help but become more aware. Even people who do the Silva course with totally material objectives, once they start going to level every day, that consciousness starts simmering, bubbling, they become more aware, and even the people who are, as I say, start off very materialistically, they start to say, hey, there's a lot of strange coincidences happening in my life, and then after a while they realize, well, maybe they're not coincidences, maybe this is really something that is now resonating with my new state of being, with my new state of consciousness.
I think that's so true, because people are so used to thinking, believing, behaving, or acting in the same usual way day by day. And when they learn a better way to think, believe, and behave, there's absolutely every reason why your external environment is going to adjust to that, or how your reality, your living reality, will adjust to that, because you cannot possibly have the same living reality when you change it or upgrade it to something better, like a better way of thinking, more positive, more optimistic, more proactive, a better way of believing, beliefs that open doors to opportunities, and behaviors that support, this new upgraded you. So your living experience is truly going to change by simply changing those very small three factors. They seem small, and they are small. They're easy to influence, but the impact is so great. And the other thing that I think, we also experience with Silva is that most people, my father used to say, 80 to 90% of humanity is only aware at the higher beta frequencies associated with the physical activity, the outer world. But most people have no clue as to what goes on in their inner world.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that true?
Yeah, that is really amazing that people think they are just that little outer surface. And when they first discover the other, well, I just love the reaction on the last day of the class when the people have done the casework and they're going around with their mouths open, literally. And some of them actually say, it's frightening. And I say, what are you frightened of? You're actually saying to me, you're frightened of your own power and your own strength and your own wisdom. And they, well, yeah, I guess I am. And that's why sometimes I quote the Marianne Williamson prayer at the end of the class, which is all about, I don't quote it for word because usually I quote it in French, which is basically about that the things that frighten us most are not our problems, our weaknesses, but the fact that we are enormously powerful beings and we don't recognize this.
That's so well stated, and it's so true, because I think we all as instructors, experience that from some of our students, because they realize I am a powerful being and I have the ability to make change happen, positive change happen. And with it comes a great responsibility, because now you realize, wow, I have this wonderful power to make something good happen, and shame on me if I don't, basically. And I have no excuse anymore as to why I should live with problems or illness or misery or unhappiness or lack of love or joy or abundance, because literally you have all the tools to find a way to upgrade everything about your life. And it really does start with having more consciousness within, and tapping into your intelligence that is connected to everything else, and mind that is a focusing faculty of intelligence to attune to time, through time and space. So as we evolve our practices in the Silva method and go through the subjective education and all that, more and more conscious we are about our power and our ability to access information and then apply that information to solve all problems. So I think that's the scary part at the end of the course, is that, oh my God, I have no excuse to not change for the better.
Yeah, because as you say, with understanding of our power comes responsibility. But that reminds me of a way back, but I remember there was a particular female graduate during the class, and she was saying, well, once you get to Alpha, what are you supposed to do? She'd only just started the class, and you just sit there and relax. And by the time she got to the end of the class, she was going, oh my God, there are so many people I can help. She said, I'll need to spend hours and hours in Alpha every day. There's so many things I want to do. So she was aware of her responsibility, but she was very, very keen to get going and start making a difference, which is fabulous.
You said something that really stands out right now, which is, what am I supposed to do, when I get there? I think there's two things I'd like to share in that regard that I hope you chime in on. One is that I think people have a misconception as to what is meditation. They think that it's only that space that you go within that is really passive and quiet and you do nothing. And you know what? Yes, typically that's the original way that people viewed meditation, which is that very deep, passive state that's really associated with theta functioning, which is theta brainwave frequencies, which are slow emissions, electrical emissions of the brain that fall in cycles per second. But what my father was a genius at was that it was in discovering that you didn't have to go so deep within in such slow frequencies, that there was actually a frequency higher and faster called alpha, about 10 cycles of electrical emissions per second, a brain frequency, that a person could be very dynamic and engaged. They can literally be in the experience and really enjoy success and benefits and wonderful things and talk and share with others. And just as I'm doing right now with my eyes closed. And that alpha frequencies is so dynamic and so engaging that there's a lot to do when you're there, because you can use all your mental senses instead of being quiet and passive doing nothing. At alpha, you're very, very engaged in the process and participating in the evolution of your life or in the solving of problems and creativity and whatever it might be. So there is lots to do while you're there. And that's, I think, a misconception. People don't realize that there's a real big distinction between meditation and dynamic meditation that we do in the Silva method.
Exactly. And of course, there's a very important place for passive meditation, but there are so many things you accomplish in dynamic meditation. I think it's really important people understand that there are these possibilities. Just recently, a graduate who'd done the class with me years and years ago asked me to do a private class for her husband because he's a very important personality and he wanted to do it anonymously. And he had already tried to learn meditation, and he'd gone to school where they taught mindfulness, and I think mindfulness is fantastic, but unfortunately the way he'd been taught was you just sit there and you do nothing. You empty your thoughts and you're just aware. And he was a very dynamic, active, responsible person. And it just drove him nuts. He couldn't do it, and he couldn't relax. So when he started doing the Silva method, he loved it. He said, but this is so structured and practical, and all I need to do is just this, this, and this, and I feel I'm accomplishing something. So it really was something very, very important for him. So it's for people who are active and dynamic and have responsibility, and who just feel that if I sit there doing nothing for 20 minutes, what's this going to give me? Exactly. So that they have access to meditation through a dynamic path.
I meditate and plan my day, set goals as I jog. I defocus my vision and I'm jogging. I'm picturing all the things that I need to do as I'm jogging with defocus or indirect vision, because I'm picturing images in my mind, and I can still follow my road or my track. I don't have to be focused, I don't have to focus my eyesight to do that. So I'm always programming as I jog. So I find that to be really, really valuable. The other thing, too, that maybe you've experienced as well is that people ask, well, when am I supposed to do it? And I'm saying, do it. It's not an it. It's a be it. It's a being. Because, obviously you have 2 times of day when you can literally do a formal meditation. At night, as you're going to sleep, you can go through alpha. You're going to have to go through alpha to get to slow wave sleep. So make a pit stop. Go over your day, set some goals, energize some existing goals, and then drift into sleep from there. And in the morning when you wake up, you stay in bed a few moments, again, planning out your day, set new goals, setting healing energies, solving problems, whatever it might be. But during the day, that's when people say, when do I do it? I said, well, you just do it as you need it all the time. Because remember, you have your 3 fingers technique. You can defocus your vision or even close your eyes when a problem arises and just say, okay, what do I need to do with this right now? Okay, good. And just open yourself up to ideas and solutions and go, got it, and then act on it. So during the day, I find that I go in and out of alpha many times during the day with my 3 fingers, and sometimes defocus vision, sometimes I close my eyes. It doesn't matter, but I go in and out as I need it. So it's not a thing of doing it. It's a way of being. It's a lifestyle where you are always, where you can always access the inner conscious levels where you are more creative and solutions arise and you are more effective, and you can center yourself easier throughout the day. So I find that that's a great way also to turn chaos into flow when things get a little bit chaotic.
Right. And since, I'll say again, I think the laboratory and the counselors are one of the most amazing way to contact all that inner consciousness. I think people need to remember you don't have to go through all the ritual to go into your laboratory. You just defocus your eyes and go into that daydreaming mechanism, and it's instantly available.
That's so true. You find out that because we're multidimensional beings and we're both physical and we are spiritual, that because of that, once you learn the tools and techniques in the Silva method, you have access to that spiritual part of you anytime you need it or desire it. So we can literally be able to be in both dimensions as we need, not at the same time, but we are at the same time existing in both, but be conscious of both as you need it. And that is a concept that we share in the Silva intuition system called telemind, where you can literally be conscious of your inner senses as well as your physical senses, and be able to access information with both physical and subjective senses. And that's really pretty important.
Hear, hear. By the way, Laura, I often hear you say we are spiritual beings living a physical experience. Is that Laura Silva, or are you quoting somebody?
I believe the really first person, I've been looking for that information. I say it all the time, but I think it was Wayne Dyer who says, that we are so much greater than what we see. We're spirit, we're mind, we're intellect, we're emotions, and we are physical as well. But 3/4 of who you are, the part that I probably say is that 3/4 of who you are is invisible, intangible, and spiritual in nature. So we can't say we're physical beings having an occasional spiritual experience. Literally, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so we really need to connect to our spiritual sense or being in order to be able to expand and grow and evolve further and further, because there's no boundaries to what you can achieve with your subjective or spiritual senses. The senses of the mind have no barriers whatsoever of time or dimensions. And so there's so much more in that universe than there is in this physical world that we live in.
Hear, hear. And I think science is finally starting to catch up on this by studying the near-death experiences that are appearing more and more in the world at the moment. There's so many books and websites out on this now. And what happens is people come back and say, hey, my brain had stopped. I was physically dead. I was not breathing, but I was still conscious. And I was more conscious, in fact, than I ever was before. And there are more and more scientists that are studying this phenomenon who are saying, hey, consciousness is not something that is only belongs to the brain. Consciousness is something which is maybe like the cloud or the internet experience, which is using the brain like a computer to function through, but it exists independently.
Yeah, well put. I really appreciate that you stated that. And I really appreciate that you made the time to join us today in Silva TV, which, by the way, was the name of my father's business before he actually developed the Silva method. He was in electronics and had a TV and radio repair shop way back when we had TVs with bulbs in them, and back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and it was called literally Silva TV. So I'm so happy you were able to join us for Silva TV. Really appreciate.
Oh, I am too. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate all the great wisdom that you've shared with us, and we look forward to hearing from you again. And if you'd like to get to know Lee a little bit better and be able to go attend one of her seminars when you're maybe traveling through France, or you happen to be living in France, then go to silvamethod.com and then go to the tab that says instructors. Go to France, and you'll find Lee's information there. You'll love to meet her, and she's an amazing, very dynamic presenter. She's got a load of experience, great charisma, and lots to share. So I really encourage all of you to go visit with Lee and participate in one of her classes if you can. You'll love it. Plus, France is a really great place to go. So once again, Lee, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming once again to Silva TV.